In this video, we want to look at the for each loop inside of PHP, how it's similar to for and how it's different and what that's going to mean for you. So let's get started. All right, so here I have an array, and I have a series of values in this array. We saw this in a previous video with our for loop, but what happens if I don't want to use the count variable and I don't know how long my array is going to be? And actually, this is a pretty common problem, especially out of something like if I'm getting data out of a database or from an external file like an XML file or a JSON file or something like that. I don't know how much data is being sent to me, but I have to be able to work with it. So what can I do? Well, I've got another type of loop inside of PHP. Now, depending upon what languages you may be familiar with, you might have seen this before and it might be really familiar to you, or it could be quite different. And this is called the for each loop. And so we're going to start with for each. Now, the for each is kind of like the for. It's designed to run over a set number of items. The difference is I don't have those three different components like I do inside of a for loop. Instead, I'm going to put the for each and then I'm going to add what my source is. In this case, array. And then I'm going to create a new variable. In this case, I'm going to call it value, because what I want to do is I want to specify each value of my array. Now, if you're familiar with something like Python, this is kind of similar to how a Python for loop works. I have my braces just as I normally would have. I'm going to echo value. Then a line break. If I load in my for each, you'll notice that it goes in and it writes each element of my array on a separate line. So this is very, very simple. In fact, a lot of people think this is a lot simpler when I go and have to loop through an array, because all I have to do is define each individual value. But it actually has another major advantage, and that's if we're using associative arrays. And I'm going to build an associative array. Now, if you're not familiar with an associative array, you might want to go back to the previous video on where we talk about arrays inside of PHP and how to build associative arrays. So we're just going to build it here real quick though. So I'm going to specify array, and then I'm going to give my keys and my values. So here I have some names of some people. Those are my keys, and I'm associating a value with them. What is that value? We don't really know at this point. This could be an age, this could be a position, this could be whatever. How we're going to do that is going to be defined based upon what our application is. So how are we going to change this for each statement to take advantage of my array 2, the associative array? Well, first I'm just going to put in array 2 as value just so we can see what that's going to do. Come back here, reload it, and I get my values. Okay? That's kind of what we would expect. But the problem with this is that I only get my values. If I'm using an associative array, a lot of times I need to know my key with the value. So let's look at how we're going to tweak that for each loop just a little bit so that we can get a good use of it. So back inside of our code, I have here, I'm going to make one little tweak, $key, and then I'm going to use that assignment operator. Now inside my echo, I'm going to specify key, and a little string just so it has some meaning. I'm going to save this, come back to my file, reload it, and you'll see that I have my key has a value of, and it gives my value. So in each case, what I've done is I have used the key and the value. All I had to do was modify my for each loop like you see here. So where I said array 2, which is the associative array, has a key and value. Now, out of curiosity, what would happen if I did this without an associative array? So I'm using my regular array. Well, luckily, this is really easy to test. And I'm just going to change array instead of array 2. So remember, array we have up above, it's not associative. Let's see what's going to happen. And often if you don't know, testing like this is just a really great way to find out. It's very, very simple to do. Come back here. I'm going to reload. And notice that it's using the numeric index. Okay? So the numeric index is what's going to be replaced with my key if I do not have an associative array. Something that's very simple to understand, very simple to use, and it lets us have a little bit more strength and flexibility. Now, where this becomes really powerful is if I'm using, for example, a resource, like I'm dealing with a file. I don't know how many lines of data is in my file. Or I'm using a database result. So I perform some SQL statement and now I'm getting some values back out. I don't know what they are, but I can use this for each loop and I can get those values. Anything I want to do inside of a regular block of code, I can put inside my loop body. So I can have if statements, I can have loop statements, I can do whatever I need to. This really makes PHP very powerful because it is so flexible in so many different ways.